Welcome to today's Explainer. All right, go ahead and strap into the left seat, student pilot, because today's lesson is high stakes. We're talking about an immersive, potentially life-saving flight lesson on surviving a sudden, terrifying departure from controlled flight. We're taking the raw technical procedures straight out of Chapter 43 of the Flight Training Manual, and we're bringing them to life. By the time we wrap up this briefing, you'll know exactly how to recognize and, more importantly, recover from some of the absolute most dangerous situations you can ever encounter up there in the sky. So let's get right into it.
Just picture this for a second. You're flying along, and suddenly, you completely lose the visual horizon inside a bank of blinding thick clouds. The ambient noise rushing past the cabin is changing rapidly, and, man, the aircraft controls just feel completely wrong in your hands. What is your very first reaction? Your brain might be screaming one thing, but your instruments are telling you a completely different story. Look, in aviation, trusting your human instincts when you can't see the outside world, that can get you killed. You have to. You literally must trust your training.
So let's establish our baseline here. Your flight manual officially defines an unusual attitude as an unintended, extreme attitude. But you know what's really fascinating? It's how easily it can actually sneak up on you. A steep turn that you accidentally let get a little too steep, a stall entry you just kind of mishandled, or even just a spiral descent triggered by poor visibility and not having a clearly defined horizon. A lot of times, it literally just comes down to a momentary lapse in attention to your attitude and airspeed indicators while you're in a climbing turn. Just a few seconds of distraction and boom, you're in trouble.
Okay, let's look at this comparison, because this is really the core of today's lesson. There are basically two fundamental unusual attitudes, and they are polar opposites. On one side, we've got nose high with a decreasing airspeed. That leads to a potential stall and a total departure from controlled flight. On the flip side, we have nose low with an increasing airspeed, which, by the way, the manual points out it's actually the more common of the two. That one leads to a tightening spiral with a massive risk of structural damage. As your instructor, I need you to drill this into your head. We're dealing with two completely different aerodynamic beasts here. If you react to one using the techniques meant for the other, well, it's going to be fatal.
All right, let's tackle our first scenario, the stall risk. Imagine your nose is pointing dangerously high, way up above the horizon. Your airspeed is bleeding off incredibly fast. And because there's so much less air actually flowing over the flight surfaces, the yoke suddenly feels terrifyingly sloppy and totally unresponsive in your hands. It's just mush. That sloppy feeling? That is your physical warning sign. It's the airplane confirming exactly what your plummeting airspeed indicator is already telling you.
Now, I need you to really grasp the physics here. If you do not release that back pressure on the yoke, you are going to exceed the critical angle of attack and drop right out of the sky. It's a fundamental rule of aerodynamics. No matter what crazy, extreme attitude your aircraft has ended up in, it will not stall as long as that back pressure is released. Honestly, if you just completely let go of the controls, the aircraft would eventually settle into a nose-low attitude all on its own. But obviously, doing that results in a massive, totally unacceptable loss of altitude. So we need a much better, much faster way to recover.
Listen closely to my cadence here and memorize this exact life-saving sequence, because this is how we recover without losing that precious altitude. First, you simultaneously ease the control column forward to reduce the angle of attack and push the nose firmly toward the horizon. Second, punch it. Apply maximum power to stop that airspeed decay, making absolutely sure you're applying sufficient rudder to prevent any further yaw. And third, and only after those first two steps, you roll the wings level with coordinated use of your rudder and ailerons. The order here is absolutely everything. Do not mix it up.
And that brings us to a massively crucial warning straight from your recovery checklist. Do not use the ailerons until you are certain that the wings are unstalled. Why? Well, think about it. If you try to forcefully roll the aircraft level with your ailerons while the wings are still stalled or sitting right at that critical angle of attack, you can easily induce a spin. It's a classic mistake. You've got to fix the pitch and the power first.
Okay, let's flip the script to scenario 2. Suddenly, the nose drops way below the horizon. This deafening wind noise fills the cabin as your airspeed just surges, and crushing G-forces start physically pushing you deep down into your seat. This is the nose-low overspeed risk. And listen to me, if you blindly jam the power forward here, you are in serious, immediate danger of exceeding the airplane's maximum allowable airspeed, that terrifying red line on your indicator known as VNE.
Now, there's actually a really sneaky aerodynamic trap hiding in this extreme dive angle. As your bank increases and the nose drops, your airspeed rockets up,
But because your aircraft was previously trimmed for a much slower cruising speed, the elevator trim is actually fighting you right now. It's desperately trying to pitch the nose up to regain that slower speed. But here's the terrifying part about that. In a steeply banked turn, that nose-up pitching moment doesn't actually raise the nose to the horizon. Nope, it just tightens the turn, cranking up your G-forces even more.
So here is your punchy, incredibly methodical checklist to survive this dive. First, reduce power. Close that throttle quickly and completely to contain the runaway airspeed. Second, firmly roll the wings level using aileron and coordinated rudder, but do not allow the nose to pitch up just yet. Keep it forward. Third, you're going to gently, very gently, ease out of the dive. And finally, only as the airspeed reduces and the nose passes back up through the horizon, then you add your power and climb away.
Look, if you fail to recognize that nose-low attitude immediately and you don't catch it super early, you are going to get yourself trapped in a deadly, tightening spiral dive. Honestly, this is the single most common loss of control scenario we see. It usually starts from a steep turn while flying on instruments, where the pilot just kind of stops believing what their attitude indicator is clearly telling them. You absolutely have to know the difference between a spiral dive and a spin because they demand completely different reactions from you. You'll know for sure you're in a spiral dive when you feel this immense, heavy G-loading pressing down on you, combined with a rapidly accelerating airspeed and a plunging loss of altitude. In a standard spin, your airspeed would actually be quite low and pretty steady. So if you see that airspeed dial winding up rapidly like a clock on fast forward, you are definitely in a spiral dive.
When you're plunging toward the ground in that spiral, you have to fight every single human instinct that's screaming at you to violently yank back on the yoke. As the manual perfectly states, it takes time and altitude, with a quick recovery being even more dangerous. Seriously, if you panic and pull back hard, those immense G-forces will easily exceed the airplane's limit load factor. You will quite literally overstress the airframe and risk tearing the wings right off the airplane in midair before you ever even get close to the ground. You have to be smooth. You have to ease out of it.
All right, let's take a breath. Welcome back to the briefing room for our final check ride debrief. Let's look at these two opposite methodical procedures right side by side. On the top, the nose-high recovery. Ease the column forward, level the wings, then add power. On the bottom, the nose-low recovery. Pull the power all the way back, level the wings, and gently ease out of the dive. We're talking about two totally different aerodynamic emergencies, solved by two precise, deliberate, and entirely opposite procedures.
So, the absolutely crucial point I want to leave you with today as your instructor is this. Unusual attitudes are the ultimate test of a pilot's discipline. The very next time that horizon completely vanishes into the whiteout, the wind noise swells, and gravity starts playing mean tricks on your inner ear, what are you going to do? Will you give in to panic and let your human instincts overstress the airframe? Or will you fall back on the exact mechanical steps we drilled into your head today and let your training pull you safely back to straight and level flight? Class dismissed.